Hey everybody, I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour, and in this video, I would like to try to accomplish 3 tasks. Task number 1 is to make you aware that there is a thing called Pastor/Clergy Appreciation Month that happens in October of every year. And I feel like we have now accomplished task number 1, so we are already getting things done. Task number 2 is that I would like to persuade you to do something in honor of the pastor or clergy people in your life in October of this month. But thing number 3, and this is really the heart of the video, is I would like to think together about what would make sense. Like, what's something you could do for a pastor or a clergy person in your life that would actually really help? Like a gift card for ice cream, or a card from the Christian bookstore that has a Bible verse on it and a nice note. That stuff is awesome. It really is. But I called around to a bunch of my pastor friends who are still in the game. This is a job I did for a long time. I loved the job. It was meaningful, profound. I mean, you get to prepare the message every week for a bunch of people who want to be there and who you know deeply and care about. And you get to share in the joys and the tragedies and the delicate moments in people's lives when people are hurting and screwed something up. You get to be there to help them figure out how to put it back together, to show them what forgiveness is like when you actually really need it. It's a great thing to get to do with your life, but you also never get to turn that stuff off. You are always thinking about it. You are always wearing it. It's not just the burden that you feel, maybe as a layperson, for your family or someone you love. You feel it for a whole gigantic congregation full of people. So it's serious stuff. And people who do that for a living, they're not quick to just jump in and be like, oh, this is what I want. Give me these things. So I went and asked them. I caught up with a bunch of people who do this, and I had to prod and badger to get them past just saying nice Christian things like, well, you know, what people could give me is just a heart for the Lord. And I'm like, you know what, dude, that sounds absolutely great, but let's go deeper. And they didn't want to say it. And so I picked and picked and picked until they finally got down to the super ridiculously honest place, and I promised to leave it anonymous. And, well, I wrote down their answers on the back of this Outback receipt, and I would like to read some of those to you now. You know how sometimes you get really busy at work and stuff breaks around the house, and you sit there and you stare at that hole in the drywall or that stain that needs to be cleaned up, and you just don't have time to do it, and eventually that thing becomes a metaphor for how out of balance your life is, and every time you see it or walk by it, it makes you feel drained and like you're failing at things. Maybe you've never felt that. I have definitely felt that. Pastors apparently feel that. If you're good at fixing things at all, you know what would be awesome for Pastor Appreciation Month? Grab your fixing things kit, go over to their house and be like, hey, what stuff has been broken for a while that I could just make right real quick? And then just knock it out. And they probably won't know what to say or how to thank you, because that's awkward, but it will make your clergy person's life better. The second thing I heard from all of these pastors that they would love to get from you for Pastor Appreciation Month is for you to take something that has fallen to them that really should be handled by the congregation and own it. I don't mean like, hey, this month I'm gonna fill out this thing or make sure this little detail gets taken. I mean, like, pick a thing that needs to be done that nobody is doing. If you gotta ask around to find out what it is, cool. But find out what that thing is and then go and tell your pastor, hey, I got this thing. Not like I'll do it, like I will own it. It'll be covered every week, even if I'm not there. It'll be done with excellence. I will come to you to make sure I am doing it right. I want to take little busy things off your plate so you have more time for the bigger things that are of greater concern. You can count on me. Maybe someone who's watching this, maybe you are the hurdle, the gatekeeper for things at your church. You're a matriarch, you're a patriarch, you're an influential giver, you're on some kind of board of deciders, and your pastor has had a thing that they've wanted to do for a while. It's a ministry idea, it's something they want to try, but you think it's probably not going to work. And so the pastor keeps bringing it up and they want to do it, and you have good reasons for saying, not right now, not right now. Here's something you could give your pastor for Pastor Appreciation Month. Let them try it. It is possible you are completely right and it's a bad idea and it's not going to be productive. Cool, put a sunset clause on it. Everything in church should have a sunset clause other than the worship service anyway. So just put a sunset clause on it. Like, hey, I know you've wanted to do this for a long time. I know I've been skeptical. Let's give it a go. How about we do it for a year and we sit down and we evaluate the whole thing after? That kind of stuff is so life-giving and energizing for your clergy people because they want what's going on at church to be awesome. They want it to kick butt. And they're trying to think outside the boundaries of what's been going on for a really long time. And they understand it's not safe. And they understand it could fail. But the fact that you have a clergy person who's trying is a huge thing. And anything you can do to say, all right, let's give it a go and nurture that in them is going to be gigantic. Imagine a 5-gallon bucket with a hole drilled in the bottom. It's about that big and it's filled with water. You know the water is going to flow out and you know it's going to go empty unless there's a hose on the top, putting at least the same amount of water, the same flow rate in as the flow rate out is occurring. Well, it's the same deal with pastor's brain and soul. They're constantly doing outflow, trying to think of new ways to say it. They're trying to encounter resources to think more deeply about the Bible, about people, about church, all of that stuff. Then the way the inflow happens, or one of the important ways, is reading the ideas of other people, catching the words, the thoughts, the ethos of other people. Books cost money, a lot of money. So hopefully your church has a book budget. $500 to $1,000 a year is entirely reasonable for what it takes for a clergy person to stay outfitted with the tools of the trade. If you can't put such a book budget in place, I would consider yourself or getting a few other people together, pool some money and give the pastor the ability to go and buy a bunch of the tools of the trade so that the hose goes into the top of the bucket and your pastor's resources reservoir doesn't run dry. Here's an abstract one that I think is huge. I mentioned the cards earlier. The cards are awesome, like the gift cards and the greeting cards. That's huge. But what about writing something that doesn't fit in a greeting card? What about saying something that doesn't fit in a greeting card that gets past the good job level, which is awesome. I'd rather hear that than terrible job. But that gets to the level of the things that are vulnerable, the part of us where the insecurities lie, the parts of us that for a pastor are particularly on display. Maybe your clergy, your pastor has got a family. You know what? They are concerned about that. That is a burden they bear because their kids are a reflection of them somehow, or they feel that way. And they're woefully afraid that, depending on how you read that one verse in the Bible about the elders and leaders in the church and how their kids act, they're terrified that if their kids screw up the wrong thing, or if they don't conduct themselves in church just the right way, that somebody might get offended and angry and maybe they're going to need to get a new job. Look, you're going to get better results out of that pastor and out of their family if you lighten that load. And the easiest way to lighten that load is come alongside them and tell them something maybe you think they don't need to hear, that they should just know, but that they do need to hear. Like, hey, your kids are awesome. Hey, I love your kids. I saw that you do this with your parenting. I noted that. We're stealing that idea. Thanks for being a great parent. If a kid screws something up, go find that clergy member. This isn't even a Pastor Appreciation Month thing. This is an always thing. And prop them up. They need it. How do you feel when your kids do something weird? But more than anybody, that affirmation of, hey, I see you. I see who you are. I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're going for here. I see what you're going for with your marriage if they're married, with your kids if they had kids. That sort of deeply personal, into the vulnerable space affirmation in writing or in person with sincerity will go miles to encouraging your clergy person and to getting the best out of them. You know what really, truly, honestly eats your pastor's lunch and is the biggest source of pressure they feel that you could make go away? It's the tensions in the church. Every single pastor I talked to eventually brought up the exact same thing. There are people in the church, and I love them, and I know what's broken about them, and I know what they're working on, and I care about that person, and I can say the exact same thing about their enemy, who sits over there on the other side of the room, and I'm trying to nurture both of their souls, and I care about them, and I'd really like it if they would fix it. You know what you could give your pastor if you wanted to give him something better than a gift card for ice cream? Go find your enemy in the church, pull them aside, insist on peace. Don't worry about what they did wrong. Worry about what you did wrong. Own every single thing you can own. Tell them that you're doing it because of God, because of the purpose of the church, and that you're doing it because you want to give to the pastor the gift of peace between you two long rivals. Then the two of you, after you've got that worked out and things are right, march your butts unannounced into the pastor's office and say, hey, it's Pastor Appreciation Month. We thought about what you might like for that, and we thought something we could give you that would make your life better and make what you're trying to do here more effective would be peace between us. So we did it. We worked it out. Here's how we worked it out. You won't have any more problems with anything else like that. High five that pastor, get on with your day, and then follow through with it. Every single person I talked to, maybe not with quite that level of abruptness and candor, they all pointed to that same thing. Every pastor I talked to acknowledged that they appreciate the compensation they receive from work, but also, like any other family, they are upside down in a couple places financially. A credit card that's gotten a little bit out of control, a car payment, just something that costs money. Everybody has financial burdens from time to time, and lightening those financial burdens for somebody else is a massive act of grace. Oftentimes churches are like, we want to give our pastor a raise because that shows appreciation, and that's awesome. I'm for that. Give pastors raises, great. But a way that you can give your pastor a tax-free raise is simply to find out what debt they might have in a certain area and kill it. It liberates money. There's a guy who talks about a debt snowball. If they're trying to knock out other debts, killing a small one for them gets that rolling downhill and helps them to get out of that place of financial despair where you just can't picture what it's going to look like to dig out of that, especially young family financial situation that everybody finds themselves in at some point. I know it's a bold ask, but maybe you or a group of other people put your heads together, never hold it over the head of the pastor, but just quietly and discreetly kill a debt to free them up. It would be huge. Look, my friends, if you're still here, it means you think that this might be a good idea. You think this is something worth exploring. I am telling you, some of your pastors may be in a place where they're like, you know what? I'm tired enough. I'm worn down enough. I need the relief enough. I'm not even going to go through the motions of arguing and being like, no, please don't do that. I'm just going to accept your generosity because it genuinely helps. They might be there. If they immediately say yes, that's not a sign of greed. That's a sign they really are tired and the help really is welcome. Most of the people who you're going to try to do this for are going to put up defenses. They're going to argue. They have been conditioned to believe that if they've got a credit card with a little bit of debt on it, that's like a moral mistake on their part, and they don't want other people to know. It's a bad example. Look, these are humans, and they've got a healthy degree of self-esteem and dignity that they want to maintain in the process. And just like you would be resistant to somebody jumping in and trying to do something that would really help, you might run into that here as well. Just don't accept it. Power right through that, and discreetly, with dignity intact, do something this month for the clergy people who are serving you that is transformative for them, that gives them life and energy and freshness and vigor to do something that really is a wonderful but very challenging job in the service of a God that you both worship and in the service and the care of your soul. I can tell you from being on the pastor side of the equation and from being on the now I'm not a pastor side of the equation, it means the world. Thanks for thinking about this. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour. Let's do this again soon.